It is February 2025, and I was going to continue talking about the collaborative agreement and these leverage support groups that the city funds every year. But instead, I wanted to just talk real quick about this ARC program that the city has. It's called ARC, Alternative Response to Crisis, and it's in the news recently because the Fraternal Order of Police and the Firefighters Union have both filed unfair labor practice complaints against the city because they think that this program should have been negotiated with them as part of their agreement. And we'll just have to see where that goes. But what is essentially happening is that a program that the mayor and the city manager started a couple years ago in FY22 apparently has now been permanently placed in the budget, and it is for all intent and purposes a defund the police effort. If you go back and look at the defund the police effort after George Floyd was murdered, you'll see that the real intent of defund the police was not to just take money away from the police and use it for something else. The idea was to shift certain police functions from the police to other units of social workers, counselors, mental health specialists, and those type of people, and have that unit interact with the public instead of the police. Reduce the interaction between the police and the public. Insert these other people in. That was a big part, and still is a big part of the defund the police movement, and Cincinnati's in there right along. What's interesting is that the mayor's FY23 budget address specifically talks about this program. He says, at the same time, we are once again leaning into a comprehensive, innovative approach. The Alternative Response to Crisis pilot, launched last year, has demonstrated a tremendous impact on our ability to free up police resources for the prevention of violent crime. In this budget, we are establishing a permanent allocation for the program while doubling its capacity to provide a non-police response to non-violent 911 calls. So that's how the program was being sold. But the effect of programs like that is, as I've said, to reduce the number of interactions between the public and the police. What's also interesting about the FY23 budget message is it also funds this Rising 15 concept. It funds the Boots on the Ground fund, which I mentioned, and it funds the Safe and Clean program, which is the fund that I couldn't remember. And both of those are now instrumental in Act for Cincy, on top of this $1.5 million that went into mental health. So those funds, and I believe also the ARC fund, the ARC program, is funded by tax credits that the city obtained as the result of the sale of the railway. So that money didn't go into infrastructure, although I don't think legally it had to. But the infrastructure was such a crisis that we get this $6 to $10 million windfall from the sale of the railroad. But instead of putting it into infrastructure, they put it into these social justice programs and the defund the police programs. So the the ARC program is problematic for a lot of reasons, but one that got my attention in particular has to do with the 911 center itself. And talking about 911 and making changes to the duties of 911 dispatchers and things like that, it brought to mind the incident in 2018 involving Kyle Plush. He's the young man who died by being trapped in the back of his minivan, his family's minivan, and he suffocated. But he had been able to contact 911 more than once, and the police did go to the scene, but they never got out of their cars to look for him. So there were problems on both the 911 side and on the police side. And the city made a settlement with the family, which included a complete review of the 911 operations. And it had a panel of experts that they put together who would monitor the 911 center and its ability or the progress that it's made in terms of responding to recommendations and things like that. And that agreement is still in effect. It was a 5-year agreement that was made in October of 2021, so it still has 1 3/4 years where it is governing the 911 system basically. And I wonder whether or not the city consulted with that group. I think it's called the Qualified Settlement Fund. And I actually sent an email to the fund today to ask them whether they know anything about this and whether they think it's okay or not okay. So we'll see if I get an answer. But you can't introduce added complexities to the dispatchers lightly. You really have to be sure what you're doing. And those jobs are not easy jobs. Very stressful. I believe they're hard to fill. I'm not 100%, but I think they're hard to fill positions. And the idea that we're going to introduce an extra degree of complexity, I think it's problematic. Maybe this review group isn't going to think so, but I think so. And so that's what we're dealing with on this ARC program. I think it's a terrible idea. Just from my own experience, having law enforcement and quasi-law enforcement operating in the same environment is very, very difficult and has a lot of risks to it. And I'm not sure that there's an appreciation of that among the city administrators, but they need to look at that. And I'm very interested in seeing what this review team, this Qualified Settlement Fund effort for Kyle Plush, what that's doing. So if I hear back, I will let you know.